So I guess because I'm some form of a content creator, I'm obligated to make a list of my favorite games of the year. Just a heads up, these aren't reviews. I'm just going to talk about what I liked about these games. Also, as of writing this, I've not played Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, or Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but I'm sure I'd like them. Okay, let's get this one out of the way. Yes, Tears of the Kingdom is a masterpiece. Yes, it does the impossible and recaptures the magic of playing Breath of the Wild for the first time. The only reason I'm keeping this brief is because summing my thoughts in a short segment would do the game a disservice. It deserves its own video. Let's put a pin in this discussion and move on. In this day and age, game devs will announce big titles that take years to come out, and we watch as they try to keep the hype train moving, only for the final product to barely deliver. I say this because it amazes me that Bethesda Softworks announced a rhythm action game made by the Evil Within team, released it that same day, and it became one of my favorite action games. I'm of course talking about Hi-Fi Rush, the story of an idiot slacker getting wrapped up in a shady business deal where he gets a new robot arm, only for an accident to make him public enemy number 1. Said accident also gives him the ability to sync up his actions to the beat of the music. And this is Hi-Fi Rush's bread and butter. Everything syncs up to the beat, from your attacks to your dodges to your jumps. What's crazy is that, if you take a step back, Hi-Fi Rush doesn't really do much different from most action games. You've got light attacks and heavy attacks that you chain together, dodging and parrying at the right time, various buffs and supers you can equip and swap between, etc. But it's because of the implementation of the beat mechanics that makes Hi-Fi Rush truly feel like its own thing. Couple this with a story that's cheesy in the best way, with a colorful cast of characters that range from likable to delightfully hateable. Not to mention a banging soundtrack of mostly original and licensed rock tracks, and you have a game that's more than worth the money. Oh yeah, it's only $30. Just throwing that out there. Pizza Tower is not a game. It is a form of art. It is the culmination of a bunch of ideas and gimmicks tossed in a Wario-flavored sauce and blended with the essence of Sonic the Hedgehog. It is something that only comes once every 1,000 years. Very few things on this planet will give you the same rush of adrenaline as this game that are illegal. What other game can have you playing as an Italian stereotype, running like a madman through knights wielding giant forks, hillbilly potatoes, and literal pig cops? What other games can feature forgotten platforming mascot Mort the Chicken, a ripoff of the Domino's Noi, and a blob of cheese with a gun? What other games can have all that, while also being one of the tightest controlling and most satisfying to perfect games? Are we truly worthy of such a game? When Mortal Kombat 1 was first announced, and it was confirmed to be a full-on reboot yet again, I was not interested. I was a fan of Mortal Kombat, but after skipping out on 11 and hearing from my friends how bad it was, I decided I was going to skip this one too. But the more I heard about it, the more I was interested. And it was looking good. Really good. It looked fun. Punches had weight, animations were flashy, the story looked interesting, and the combat pack has who now? I had to have this game, and on the day of release I bought it, breezed through the campaign, and hopped into the extras. Mortal Kombat 1 is the most fun I've had with a fighting game in years. The characters all feel unique and distinct and fun to play. The story, while silly at times, has a lot of heart and great characterization. There's a lot of fun side content. But above all, Mortal Kombat 1 has done something for me no other fighting game really has. I want to get better at it. I want to learn how it works. I want to play more and get better. This is, simply put, my favorite fighting game of all time. Ever since Doom's revival in 2016, especially with the release of Doom Eternal, we've seen a large flux of old school inspired FPSs, from Ultra Kill to Dusk to 40k bolt gun. But there's one of these games I want to touch upon. Slayers X, Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer. Don't ask me what any of that means, I can't tell you. This is easily one of the dumbest games I've ever played. Imagine Duke Nukem, but instead of playing as a hardened badass, our hero is a 16-year-old who listens to Linkin Park and loves The Matrix. Essentially, this game stories all the worst parts of the 90s and early 2000s distilled into one package. The loud angst of nu metal, the overuse of green, and the story of a teenager and apparently famous CEO living in Boise, Idaho, named Zane Lofton, setting out on a quest to avenge his dead mom, using weapons like dual pistols, a minigun with a rotating blade attached to it, and my personal favorite, a shotgun that shoots glass shards. Oh yeah, the game itself is a lot of fun. It's nothing too special compared to most boomer shooters like Doom or Duke Nukem, but it doesn't really need to be. Its style is more than enough to carry it. This truly does look and feel like a game from that era. All the sounds and visuals feel right at home. If you showed this to someone who had never heard this game before, they might think it was a forgotten FPS from the 90s, like Rise of the Triad or Heretic. The story is completely stupid, but what I like is that it manages to be ironic without being insecure. From beginning to end, not once does it try to pull a "that was weird" joke or acknowledge the stupidity of what's going on. It knows it's stupid, and it knows that you know it's stupid, so why bother bringing attention to it? Plus, it actually may have a more depressing narrative behind it. But I don't have time to cover it here. If you want to know more, check out this video from my friend, Mistress Dove, who goes into a lot more depth. And if you don't...
Your grandparents are turds. Literally.
When Resident Evil 4 Remake was first announced, I was not looking forward to it. The idea of a remake of the hit horror classic and one of the best games of all time is something I did not want, because what was the point? Resident Evil 4 is a game that can be played on every system under the sun, and is still fun today. Especially after the middling Resident Evil 3 remake, this just didn't seem like something that would work. I say all this because Resident Evil 4 Remake is my game of the year. It seems impossible. A game I did not want becomes one of my favorite games of all time? But that's where we are. Resident Evil 4 Remake is, simply put, an incredible survival horror game in its own right, yet complements and pays tribute to the original beautifully. It's like how they remade the original Resident Evil, taking the original, making something new, while still maintaining the original spirit. Everything from the original is here and accounted for. The combat is still snappy, feels good to get right, and is tense without being overbearing. You always have the resources to handle the situation, and you always feel like you have control, but one wrong move can spell your doom. The story is still intact, but the tone helps recontextualize everything. Leon Kennedy still feels like the same Leon Kennedy, but now he feels a lot more jaded, like he's dropping one-liners not to be confident, but to show a bit of apathy of the situation, but still taking it very seriously. And the setting is still as horrifying and depressing as it was back then. This is, simply put, a masterpiece, and one I highly recommend, whether you're a fan of Resident Evil and played the original, or someone new to the series. This has been Alpha Red saying farewell.